right? Now let's get the action going and just stay going on that one thing, niching all the way down, getting really, 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 really good at it. The key to making it in this market is to niche all the way down and get really, really, really good at one thing to where it's probably so incredibly boring that you know you're going to be successful. If you're crying because it's hard and it's boring, you know you're going to be successful. Just kidding. I promise it's not going to be like that all the time. Thanks so much for coming. I'm just going to kind of chit chat a little bit here before we get started. So, today, and again, just to kind of cover this, I don't know if you guys are in my Skool or if you're not, it's Skool. If you're not, I do record all of these. So if you haven't listened, the last couple weeks we were talking about raising private money. And so all those Zooms should be inside of the classroom tab. And then I also have a some free resources inside of the classroom tab if you want to go through and watch some of those videos and just kind of what I'm going to cover a little bit today, but I'm going to go into a little bit more depth. I just was thinking about if I was starting in real estate today, what would that look like? Because, when I started in real estate 5 years ago, it definitely is, the lay of the land is a lot different now. Regulations have come down. I mean, there's states now that are making wholesaling illegal, right? Like in the state of South Carolina, you have to be an agent in order to wholesale, but agents are outlawed from wholesaling. So really that's what they did. They out and that's kind of coming down the pipe in a lot of areas, which I'm not saying that because I'm not the type of person. I'm not like a doomsday, right? If you want to know if we're in a recession, I think we've been in a recession. And so if you've made it this far, you're doing amazing. Um, I don't think like we're going to be waiting for it. We're in it. Things are not great. But it can be, right? Like it can be. And so that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. It's coming into this real estate thing. We're lucky, right? I talked about a lot in my raising private money seminar that we doubled my, s- I helped my dad double his retirement income in the last 5 years. Like almost doubled it. And he, of course, is ecstatic because he just retired a couple months ago. And now he gets to figure out what retirement looks like for him, and he doesn't have to necessarily worry. I mean, he was worried 5, 6, 7 years ago because he knew he didn't have enough money. And in the market, man, gosh, so anyways, there are some really good things, happening in the real estate industry. It's not all bad. And, it's the greatest thing about, being in a recession. And because I think we are, I mean, maybe we're not technically, but we can all see housing prices are going down. And so things look a lot different, but it's not all bad news, right? It's good news. And so that's kind of what this I wanted to talk about today and this motivational Monday. Um, because I have these on Mondays because I need them, right? That's why I do these. I need them. I need my community. I need to remember why I do this. I have not made it. Like I'm still working, right? I'm still grinding every single day because I'm building something. I haven't made it, and I love that I get to do this real estate thing. Does it nearly kill me some days? Yes. Yes, it does. In fact, over the weekend, I knew I was going to have a really hard conversation with a contractor. who is also a friend that has had some, we're actually going to have to fire them, not use them anymore. And it just like really got to me all weekend long. Like, okay, what's going to happen? I'm thinking of all these like scenarios on what's going to happen and how it's going to affect my life and how it's going to affect our friendship. And, it's funny because then I went and I had the conversation today, and the first thing that he said was, no matter what happens on this conversation today, like we are not going to lose our friendship. And I just was completely blown away because I did not expect to hear him say that, because he probably knew that the conversation was coming. Anyway, so just to say that there are some hard things out there, but that it's not all bad, it's good. And so I kind of wanted to focus on that today. Like, what would I do if I was starting out in real estate today? So just to give you a little bit of background, when I started in real estate 5 years ago, I knew coming into real estate, I had owned several businesses before. And so I have this mindset already coming into it that whatever you put your mind to, right? If you can find a path, right? And build out systems and just stick to the plan, that it will work. And that it's hard, but that it will work, right? So I've used this to my advantage in my real estate career. So my first career, I started out as a certified financial planner, and I worked for a big, huge finance company. But we kind of, we were out in territories on our own, so we managed our own territories and we ran our own territory. So I did that. It was so boring to me. And I did really well in it, but I couldn't stand it. So then I decided to buy a restaurant. Which is like totally different, right? But I was a waitress in high school, so I can own a restaurant. Um, and we bought it from somebody who had ran it into the ground, but the food was good, and we knew that we could take that and turn it into great service. It already had great food. We were just going to make it a little bit better. So I built that business. But then I had kids and I knew I didn't want to work those hours, right? So I'm kind of like, if you're young and you're in college and you think you got to pick one thing for the rest of your life, I'm an example that you do not, right? Unless you're here and you're in real estate. Then you can pick the one thing, right? You can stay in real estate forever, like hold those properties. Um but I'm the living example that you can do more than one thing in your life. So financial planner, owned a restaurant. Then I decided to be a stay-at-home mom for a little while. By the way, hardest job I've ever had. Knew after about 3 years that that was probably going to kill me, so I needed to go back to work. And that is when I decided that I was going to get into real estate. I had ran into some friends, and they were talking about this wholesale thing, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. I like that. Like, I don't want to be a real estate agent. I'd rather do that. And so when I got started, what I did is I just went and gathered the biggest list that you could find, like on PropStream, right? Absentee. I don't even know if I filtered it other than absentee in Jacksonville. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I don't know where you guys are, but go ahead and post where you are so I know where some people, I see somebody's Ohio. Just maybe like say where you are. I'd love to see who we have here from where. Some people from Florida, Houston, Texas. Okay. So like Boston. Oh, yeah, David. Oh, David, you're in Jacksonville. Awesome. If you can turn your screens on, I see a lot of people have their screens on, but it's nice to see people's faces. Michigan, San Francisco, great. So it'd be like, okay, I'm going to San Francisco and I'm just pulling a 10,000 person list. And the day that we got locked down for COVID, March 14th, 2020, I started making calls. I skip traced it and just got on the phone and started making calls. And I tell you what, it was a great time to make cold calls because people were home and they were willing to talk to you. And people were scared. They didn't know what was going on. And so they had some great conversations, got some great leads. And I did cold calling for about 30 to 35 hours a week, which is what VAs do. That's what VAs do. So I can feel the pain of, what a VA does, and they do it for like $3 an hour, which is insane. Um, and I did that for 4 months before I got my first deal. And so I would say that now that's not what I would do. I would not go and pull an absentee list and make those calls because back then, so this is something that's important to kind of do a little bit of research on when you're getting started in real estate. And I'm going to start with wholesaling. And the reason why I'm going to start with wholesaling is because there's really not a lot of risk in it. Now, lending is a great way to get started too. However, I'm not going to go that route. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. If you're getting started and you want to get into transactional lending or private lending, maybe Glenn can come on next week and talk about lending. But I'm going to talk about wholesaling. And the reason why I'm talking about wholesaling is because it's very low risk and it's sweat equity, I like to call it. Basically, if you can take your time and you can turn it into money. I actually just had a friend text me today. She is in the recruiting business. She's been recruiting for years and years and years, and her company just did a bunch of layoffs. And she just texted me and she said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about how to get into real estate investing." So that was one of the what do you call it? What made me want to come on here and talk about this? Like, okay, what would I say to her who is feeling a little bit scared about losing her job and wants to get into real estate? How can she turn the time that she has into money? So this could be for anybody. Anyone can turn their time into money. If you say that you don't have time, then this might not be for you because you are going to have to make some time in order to do this, and you're going to have to be super committed, like I was with my 30 to 35 hours a week, which was really, really hard. Okay. So if you are getting started today, the thing that you want to think about is your path, right? Because everybody needs to have an action plan to success. So what is your path going to be? Now, there are several different ways that you can find deals. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is to just get a wholesale deal. Right? Just get a wholesale deal. And I think everybody's on here is pretty familiar with what a wholesale deal is. If you're not, you can go into my Skool and I talk a little bit about what wholesale deals are, but this is going to be stacking some capital. Finding a deal and selling it to an investor like me. So if you want to find some deals in Jacksonville, Florida, I am a buyer in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a cash buyer. I buy creative deals for pad splits, so that's a side note. But I would start in my own market. That's where I would start. That's why I said, "Hey, where are you guys? San Francisco." I don't really care where you are. Now, if you're in a town with 10 people, okay. Like, but I don't see anybody here in a town. Even Aventura, you can wholesale there. Houston, you can wholesale there. Tampa, yes. Jacksonville, 100%. Michigan, yes, right? So I don't know where in Michigan, but oh yeah, Birmingham. Oh yeah, Paul, you just moved from Jacksonville. Birmingham's a great market. Okay, so everybody here looks like, you can start in your own market. And why do you want to start in your own market? Is everybody like, why would you want to be in your own market? Because I think this is probably the number one most important thing. 24,000's good. Really, that's good. But this is super important because people have the most trouble with this one thing that causes them to lose deals. Exactly, because you need to know your area. You need to know your area. That is super important. I just got an email from one of my coaching clients, and I mean, he's been marketing Facebook leads in Florida and Michigan. And it is just, and I'm not saying that you can't do this. I'm saying when you're starting out, right? Learn your own market first. So he just has such a wide he's having a hard time comping. He doesn't understand areas. He's not getting enough deals. And so he's losing deals because he thinks that he underwrites them correctly, and then he goes to sell them and he's either way, way over, or he loses the deal with the seller because he makes an offer that's way, way too low. So I would say when I first started, offers were a lot easier because you could actually make offers on margin. And what that means is I can make an offer based on knowing a buyer is going to sell it in 6 months and it's going to be worth $20,000 more than when they bought it today. Can't do that anymore. Now we're going in the opposite way, right? We have to underwrite it with maybe a 2% decrease on ARV. I am seeing that big time. It's painful for me, right? Doesn't stop me, but I didn't do it enough on some of my 2024 deals, right? Now I'm definitely doing it on my 2025 deals. So I'm seeing not as big of a profit margin as those deals are coming into 2025, right? So we're going in the opposite way, which means that when you're underwriting a deal, you want to be very conservative with your underwriting. Maybe definitely don't take the top ARV, right? Like sometimes I like to take the low and the top and kind of land somewhere in the middle, or even take the top and subtract 2%, see where you land. So we're going in the opposite direction, which makes it a lot harder to make offers on properties. So this is why I'm telling you, start in your own market. I know nearly every street. If you send me a street, somebody sent me a deal today on this street called Glen Gardner. And I'm like, oh, I did a flip on Glen Gardner a year and a half ago. And I know exactly what the street looks like. I mean, I know all the streets in the areas that I want to buy in. I don't know all the streets in the areas I don't want to buy in necessarily. But if you're a wholesaler, you definitely want to know all of those areas because there's trends that are happening, right? Like some people might want to be on this block, but not on this block. And so it's very, very, very important that you really know your market. And it's going to help a lot when you're first starting out just to stay where you are. Now, depending on how much time you have, that's something that you're going to need to figure out right away. When I'm doing personal private coaching, one of the first things that I ask is, do you have a day job, right? I like to call it your W-2. Are you getting paid? Don't quit that job. Don't quit it anytime soon, right? You need to continue to get paid. Sometimes I wish I was getting paid, but I'm glad I don't have a job. I work for myself, but I do wish I was getting paid some days. But don't quit your job. But do you have a day job? Because if you have a day job, you need to figure out how many hours a week that you want to work on this business. So, if a part-time job is how many hours? How many hours? 20 or less, maybe even 15, right? So you have to commit to, yep, 20 to 30. There you go. Okay, so let's say that 20, let's take 20 hours if you have a W-2. Okay, now we're going to be committing 20 hours a week. So first, you already have your market, right? You already have your market. You're going to stay in your own market. Second, how many hours a week am I going to commit to this business? All right. So we're building a path right now to the action taking. That's what we're doing right now. So 20 hours a week. I am going to say that somebody that has 20 hours a week, it's going to take them twice as long as somebody that has 40 hours a week. It's going to take them twice as long as somebody who has 80 hours a week. I mean, I don't even work 80 hours a week, but I guess I tell you what, if somebody's working 80 hours a week, they're going to make it happen pretty quick. And so take that into consideration. What is your bandwidth? You don't want to burn out. There's got to be some self-care in here too. But not so much self-care that, we're not taking enough action and and you get frustrated, right? So, how many hours a week? So let's say we're starting at 20. You build that out and what that looks like. So, and I see Victor on here. I know he's done this before where he was doing some door knocking for a long time and he has to build that out in his week, right? Because he's got kids, he's got school pickup, he's got work. He's building another business with his brother in Seattle or brother-in-law in Seattle, right? So he's got to make sure that he's taking action. Now, of those 20 hours, how many of those hours do you think that you should be actually taking action, talking to sellers, knocking on doors, making calls out of those 20? So you're putting 20 hours into your second business, and of those 20 hours, how many are you taking action? I would say 18 at least, 90%. 15 going to take you a little bit longer, than somebody who's putting in 18. But yeah, 15 to 18. The other 2 hours, I would say you still are going to be needing to learn. Like if you have a mentor and you're in sub two or you're on, a Zoom once a week, like I need to be on Zooms. I kind of try to put that outside of my action taking hours, when I'm building my calendar and what my week looks like. Because here's the thing, you're going to need to create a lead funnel, and you are the lead funnel. You are the lead funnel. There's no one else putting leads into your business except for you. So you need to be making sure that of the hours that you're willing to put into this business, that at least 90% of them are feeding leads into your business, with those hours. Does that make sense? So I would say 15 to 18. I like it. 15 to 18, you are taking action. Then you kind of just build it into your calendar, right? So this is what I did when I was cold calling, and I'm going to get into what I would pick, for my marketing too in just a second, and I'll give you guys some options. But what I did is I said, okay, I want to do 6 hours a day, 5 days a week of cold calling. And that, I mean, that is pretty painful. If anybody has never cold called, I know if you've door knocked, you probably know, because that's also pretty painful. Um, but if you're cold calling, 6 hours is a lot. So I would kind of break them up, right? 2 hours, take a break for an hour, 2 hours, take a break for an hour, 2 hours. And if there, for any reason, I didn't hit my 6 hours, then I would move that hour onto another day. For instance, I tried to keep Saturdays and Sundays open, just because I had kids and, I wanted to spend the weekends with them. But if I didn't hit my 6 hours in a day, then I would move it over to another day. So that means another day I would have 7 hours, or I could move it to Saturday. Does that make sense? So you have to build this out and what it looks like. Okay, so now you picked your market, you know how many hours you're going to spend. Now, how are we going to go out and find the deals? So, two things that I would do, right? But I pick one of the two, right? You don't the key to making it in this market is to niche all the way down and get really, really, really good at one thing to where it's probably so incredibly boring that you're going to be successful. If you're crying because it's hard and it's boring, you're going to be successful. Just kidding. I promise it's not going to be like that all the time. But blood, sweat, and tears are so worth it, you guys. I'm here to tell you, as stressful as it is at times, as hard as it was to get this going, I will never forget it, and I will never forget where I came from, and how hard it was, to get at all the time. Yeah, to get here, right? So if there's not some blood, sweat, and tears, you're doing it, then it's probably doing it wrong. If it comes easy, you're doing it wrong because it's not easy. So two things. Number one, I think this is the number one thing. And Victor could probably come on here and talk to you about this. Door knocking pre-foreclosures. That I would say is the number one thing that I would do if I was just getting started. So, what that looks like is pulling pre-foreclosures from your county. So, this is very, very, very niche, right? Very niche. And depending on how big your city is, depends on how many leads you have, right? And some weeks you may have more than others. Now, I don't know, Victor, did you pull your own or did you buy those leads?
I did pull my own.
Okay. So Victor figured out the secret to going into Duval County, which I can tell you right now is not easy. Going into Duval County and pulling pre-foreclosure leads. He would pull those leads, I want to say probably weekly, right? Pull them out weekly or monthly?
Daily.
Daily. Wow, that's committed. Daily. So if you want to know how to pull pre-foreclosure leads from your county, you can ask Mary Kraus. She just said she pulls her own. You can ask Victor, send him a message. Because I don't know how. I've always bought them because that's just how I roll. But I don't know how to do it, but this is huge. Being able to know how to pull your own data. I mean, that's free, guys. So out of the 20 hours that you have, I'm sure he learned how to do it and it doesn't take very long now. And then you teach a VA to do it. I'm sure Victor isn't doing it on his own now anymore, are you, Victor?
No, no.
Yeah,
VA do it every day. Yeah.
exactly. So he hired a VA that probably charges him maybe $6 an hour. And so he took that hour back, right? So this is kind of like, Victor did the time, right? He was pounding the pavement, doing all this on his own. He should probably be coming on here and talking about this actually, because he has some serious, like near close experience with this, right? So he was getting those pre-foreclosures. That's what I would do. Get those pre-foreclosures and then put them in a spreadsheet. Those are your leads. And I would door knock them and call them. Door knock them and call them. Now, door knocking first. Door knocking is the absolute best way to get a deal. And I would say it's probably because it's the hardest because you have to go and stand with a seller face to face and talk to a seller. And it might be kind of awkward, like knocking on their door and just being like, hey, is your house in pre-foreclosure? That's not what you want to say. But door knocking is definitely one of the hardest. Now, if you're like, I cannot do that, I cannot get out and knock on doors. That's totally okay. You can skip trace it and call them. That's okay too. That actually would probably be my preferred way because I really like to sit behind a computer. But I tell you what, Victor has some really good deals, and I've bought his deals, and they're amazing deals. Because he's
And
out there.
April is a great buyer. So that's the
Thank
reason
you.
I wanted to come in today because we're looking to close on one in the next couple of days.
Yep. And this is one that
And
you door knocked, right?
yeah, I door knocked them I think the very day they came out or the day after it came out. And it's been in the works for 6 months. But
How many
it's
times did
gonna
you
be
knock on their door before they answered, you said?
probably came to their door 3 or 4 times until we actually connected with them.
Okay.
And
Do you
they
guys hear
actually
that? Not, he
yeah.
didn't go just once. He didn't go twice. He didn't even go three. He went 4 times
And
where
then
he connected.
I met with them numerous times. They actually went under contract with somebody earlier this year, like in January, but they did not. They said that they're going to help them to get their next place and everything, but they did not help, and they basically said them, hey, you go figure it out on your own. And they were
Oh,
like, I
wow.
mean, and they were, and April, you saw them. They're not
I
the
did.
people who are
I
gonna
saw them.
figure out that.
They had a million cats in there. The house is completely disgusting. Awesome house in an awesome area though.
It
And
was
they
worth,
loved.
believe it or not, it was even worth. Like they ripped out some carpet, I think, so it smelled
Oh
better
wow.
than it was before.
Mark said I was like freaking out. And I usually don't freak out, but I was like, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh." And it's just crazy that people live like that in the middle of our neighborhoods, but they do. And you couldn't tell from the outside. I mean,
Yeah.
except for the fact that the car was sitting in like with no tires, then it's kind of a telltale. But you couldn't tell from the outside. And so with these people too, guys, you're going to set yourself apart by helping people. Victor helped them get into a new home. He's doing that right now, which is really cool. And they love him. Like when we were there, they were like, tell Victor we said hello. And so, and she's actually carrying two kittens around on her shoulder. As we're walking through the house, she has like these two kittens on her shoulder. I was like, oh my gosh. So, anyways, this is something, and if you're putting in, 20 hours a week, you're gonna have to be really consistent and you're gonna have to really keep track, right? So you pull these leads. Actually, Victor, why don't you tell a little bit about how you keep track of them? That might help, if you don't mind.
I mean, the goal here is to get to them as like to be the first person to contact them. That's going to be one of your biggest leverage points. Because of the first contract I sold you, it was my first deal.
Hmm.
That one was I reached out to them on the day when list pendants came out,
Wow.
and I had them under contract in 10 days. And
Wow.
so like at that point, like since I was the first one, there was only an other person who came in, and I basically, since I followed up with them during that short period of time, I got the deal.
Wow. See, this is why door knocking pre-foreclosures is so great if you're pulling the leads yourself, because imagine if you go to PropStream now, right? And I'm pulling pre-foreclosures. Well, that might have only popped up. His deal might have only popped in there yesterday, and this is 4 months ago. I don't know, it might have been 5 months ago, right? But see, the problem with PropStream and batch leads and all these different systems, there's nothing wrong with pulling those leads and calling them. It's just you're going to be the very last person to get there. And that's you need some a leverage in this market because this market is not easy, right? And it's still, I mean, it's still hot as far as buyers go, and it is very competitive, right? So
Very
if
competitive.
you are the first person to knock on their door and offer them help, then you are more likely to get the deal. So Paul says, I don't know how to cover all the bases so they are taken care of, especially after that 90-day period. What do you mean? Can you come on here and say what you mean?
I I just I mean once they I don't know enough about the legalities and who I need to talk to make sure that they don't lose their house right while I'm trying to help them. You know, I pre-foreclosure is not it's just they're under the gun and I my ignorance gets in my way. I don't really I've never been in that situation before, so I don't know all the moving parts to make sure that they're taken care of. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to be the guy that
What
messes
state
it
are you
up.
in?
Does that make sense?
What
Yes.
state are you in? What state are you working?
Well, now I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, but I was in Jacksonville.
Oh, okay, okay. Because like in Florida, if you work in the list pendants, like you have all the time in the world. Like
Hmm.
there's no worry. If you're working with list pendants, because there's not much left in the auctions.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
he's talking about is he's pulling Liz Penn, right? So when I say pre-foreclosure, it's he's actually pulling Liz pendants, which means the bank has just filed their very first case against them, which usually, I mean, it just depends. I would say, they won't file it for at least 90 days, but I know in this market with so many pre-foreclosures, like how far behind was Congaree before they filed? Like how many
Congaree?
months were they behind?
I mean, generally the rule of thumb is 120 days, but I think they
Yeah.
were like 5 or 6 months behind.
Right. So it
Yeah.
took the bank 6 months before they filed, right?
Hmm.
So after they file, you have a lot of time. So he got that lead the day that the bank filed. Plenty of time to close a deal. Now, I know there are states like Georgia that accelerates it. However, if you get a contract with the seller, you can usually call the bank and extend or stop the auction because it's costing them money to continue the court case and go to the auction. They would rather just get paid. That's an easy sale for them. And so they will stop the auction. And if you get a pre-foreclosure deal like this, please, you can bring it to me and I will help you with all that. I'll help you call the bank. We'll stop the auction. We'll get it under contract. That should not be what's stopping you from it, right? You can stop an auction the day of the auction by going and paying the bank whatever is owed. And that is absolutely possible before it goes into the auction. So I wouldn't worry about any of that. If you're working in Liz Penn, pre-foreclosure. I'm saying pre-foreclosures, but if you're pulling it from the county, it's going to look like Liz Penn. That's what it's going to look like. And I would also make sure that I learn the rules of foreclosure in the area that I'm in.
Mhm.
And Florida is a litigator state, so really it can take quite a long time to foreclose on any property. So you do have a lot of time here. But there are other states that you don't have a lot of time and it can go quickly. However, easy to stop a foreclosure if you have a contract, as long as there's still equity in the property, right? Now, if you're talking about creative finance, like we're going to buy this sub two, you don't have a lot of time. And usually when you're working in pre-foreclosures, these are not really good leads for creative finance because there's too much owed to get the loan back in good standing. So what I'm talking about here is looking for cash deals. So pre-foreclosures, door knocking, and cold calling, right? And I would spend as much time as like talking to as many sellers as you possibly can in the action hours that you have. So if you're door knocking, right, you're going to be door knocking for 18 hours a week. If you're cold calling, you're going to be cold calling for 18 hours a week. And that means we're going back to the same houses, cold calling the same people over and over and over and over and over again until we get an answer. And then when we get an answer, you got to do the follow up, right? So that's just what I would do. Now, if you're not going to go direct to seller and you're not going to do the pre-foreclosures, I would do agent outreach. That is the other thing that I would do. And if I was doing agent outreach, I would be calling 100 agents a week. 100 agents a week. So what does that look like? 25 agents a day for 5 days and doing the exact same thing. So if you are like, well, I don't, I can't pull the pre-foreclosures, I can't skip trace, I don't have time to door knock. Okay, put that out, right? And I would be going the agent outreach way. Now, it could take you a little bit longer on the agent outreach way because you have a person in between you and the seller that you have to get to the seller, right? I know people who have built their entire business on reaching out to agents, and that's pretty much my entire business now is wholesaler and agent outreach. Because the wholesalers and the agents are doing the job, the door knocking and the cold calling and the marketing to the sellers for you. And you're the one that's going and creating the relationship with the agent to bring you deals as the wholesaler buyer. So, the other thing that's great about agent outreach is that you don't even have to have a list of agents. You can just go and pull all the on market properties for the last 6 months that are still listed and start with those agents because those agents actually have listings and you know that they're active in your market. And you can just go and call all of those agents. And these properties will be good for creative finance, especially the ones that are sitting. So if you're on here and your goal is to find creative finance properties, that's the route that I would go. And you just pick up and you just call and call and call and call and call and create relationships with agents. So imagine you're calling, you have to create your own KPIs. I think we talked about this, Paul, right? Did I talk to you about this before? Where how many agents does it take? How many agents call, how many times do I have to call an agent before I get them on the phone? And you kind of have to create your own KPIs. So let's say that you are keeping track and you're like, okay, I called 25 agents today and I only talked to 2, right? So now you know it takes calling 25 agents to talk to 2. So if you want to have quality conversation and you say, okay, I want to talk to more than 10 agents, I want to talk to 25 agents this week. How many agents are you going to have to call in that week? 250 maybe? That's what you got to do. You have to call 250. You want to make this happen? This stuff, guys, it's easy, right? Or simple, but it's not easy, right? Simple, 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 but not easy. Because it's not easy to get out there and knock on doors and talk to sellers. And it's not easy to call 250 agents in a week. But you can. And if you want to make this work, you will. You have to set activity goals and you have to be taking action day after day after day after day. Victor, tell me from the person that was out there door knocking, because I've never door knocked. I did the cold calling route to get my career started. And then, and that's the thing is Victor did only that for how long until you got your first deal?
For 3 or 4 months.
Okay. And how many hours a day were you out there door knocking?
4, 5.
4 or 5, same thing, right? So same as me, right? Oh, only I was cold calling. So 4 or 5 hours every single day for 3 or 4 months. And he got his first deal and he made $20,000. Worth it? Totally. And now Victor has many, many leads and he's not out there door knocking as much anymore. I think you do it a little bit, right? Not
No,
at
I
all.
stopped. I stopped in February.
Yeah. So he's not out, right? So you got to do the one thing really, really, really good. Feed leads into your business. Get really, really, really good at that one thing so that you can build upon it, right? And then you start adding other things into it as those leads start coming into your business. So somebody asked me about LOIs. Sending agents LOIs for creative deals. Daria, do you want to come on here for a second? Is that what you're talking about?
Hi, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Sending
Okay.
them the LOIs for creative deals. I have LOI Blaster actually.
Okay. How is that working for you? Okay.
I haven't closed a deal yet.
Do you
I'm
get a
not
lot of
sure.
response?
I get responses, but I find that the agents are hesitant to go the creative finance route. And they'd rather just let the property sit or even go to short sale or foreclosure. I've had that with a few properties, than listen to this option.
Well, can you do the short sales? Can you help with short sales if you have those?
What do you mean by that?
So, like if the agent says they want to do a short sale, you can be a short sale buyer and find a buyer for the short sale. So that's another option. Anyways, we can talk about that some other time. But so I think the LOI blaster is great. I don't use it myself. I don't know much about it except that these agents get a lot of these.
Right,
Every agent does. So my tactic when I'm reaching out to agents, and I actually did a call on here, and I think I forgot to record it, and so it's not in there. But I called agents live one day in here, and the first call that I made, the lady said, I get creative finance offers all day long in my email, and I just delete them. But you're the first person that's actually called me. And so I'm interested to hear more. And so I really just educated her on, what it looks like to present an offer to her client. Now, for me, when I'm making, I want to say offers to clients, because she said, send me something. Well, I can't send her anything without a mortgage. I can't send her an actual letter of intent. I don't know anything about the property. I don't know, what I can pay them, what I can put up front. I haven't talked to the seller, right? And so I just try to make it very simple and very easy, right? We'll pay you full price for your property. We'll give you some money down and we'll make monthly payments. And then they're going to say, well, what about the mortgage? And that's great because now you know there's a mortgage. The mortgage will be paid and whatever payment is over and above the mortgage, the seller keeps and puts in their pocket every single month, right? A very
right.
easy way. So if I had the LOI blaster, I would still be using that, but I would also be using the phone
So
to,
I've done that. Well, usually what I do is I send the LOIs and then I wait a few days and then I follow up with everybody with the phone call.
okay, and how many calls do you make in a week?
I haven't made calls for a few weeks. I've been trying to trying everything from new, like redoing my LOIs, looking at the forms again, looking at the markets again, like starting from scratch because I've gotten nowhere. But I was making at a certain point about 100 calls a week
Oh, wow, for how long?
for a good few weeks.
Okay. It's
But a
got to
few
be
weeks,
like a
no,
good
I
six
know.
months.
So I got that. So it would be like a few weeks, then I would take a week to look at the LOIs, revisit again, go back to it again. Um, I've had the LOI blaster since June.
Okay.
I guess until I got the system in place, it took time. But I just feel like sometimes these agents look at the LOIs and they're already like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna wait and see.
Okay. And so from there, you have to try to build a relationship with them as a cash buyer to send you other deals,
Right.
right? Like, okay, great. Like use it as an opener for a relationship
Right. I think
so
I
that
think
they
that's
will
the
start sending you other deals and keep them. So when you talk to them and they're interested in building a relationship and sending you deals, that's a lead that you keep, right? So I have a wholesaler that I work with that the guy like bothers me nonstop, right? He will literally convince me to buy these deals that I initially said no to because he bothers the crap out of me, right? How many, like, I am a quintessential person that can get sold on anything, right? All you have to do is just drip on me. Drip on me enough times that I remember who you are and you annoy me enough that I'm going to go and buy whatever you've got for me, right? So
How annoying?
that's,
Like once a week annoying?
yeah. Hey, you have any leads? You have any houses? What about that house I sent you the LOI for? Has it sold yet? Right? So you already have an in with them because you sent them an LOI. They didn't want to do it. Has it sold? What can we do to get this sold? How can I help? Right? And Victor wrote here, you have to do what others are not doing to get results that others are not getting. That is an amazing quote. Everybody should put that on their desk, right? Victor positioned himself with this deal that I'm buying, right? With these sellers, like, I am going to get you a new house. And that's what he did. He went out and he got them a new house. And that's how the only way that they can move. Otherwise, they would lose their house and get kicked out and they wouldn't know. I mean, these people are obviously messed up, right? There's something going on with them and they needed that help. And so you have to position yourself as somebody who is going to help these agents make money, right? You want them to make money. They're going to get paid if they buy deals from you, right? So you need to, more than just like making the calls, build the relationship and then bother the crap out of them until they sell you a deal. And you already have that in with the LOI, so you can just keep on checking. And the secret sauce really is in the follow-up, right? Let's say that you see a house that you really want, right? And then there's a house that you really don't want. But the house that you want, you follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. The house that you don't really want, you don't really follow up, right? The one that you're going to get is the house that you want, right? Because you followed up so many times because you want it. You have to think about that with every single deal. Like you have to go after it extremely aggressively and be extremely annoying. And when you find someone that you connect with, especially an agent, that's going to be a lead, right? That you continually text, you continually call. Hey, do you have any leads for me? Do you have any deals for me? And eventually you're going to become friends with that person. And then that person is going to refer you directly to sellers, right? My agents now, they just give me sellers' phone numbers now because they're like, oh, I can't list this. It's got to be a cash deal. They have to close super quick. Here, call them. And I get the deal, right? But it came through building on years of relationships, right? So that's how you want to position yourself with these agents, and they will start sending you deals. So I want you to think like you're not going to make 10 agent friends in a month. You can make one, and that could take 100 calls a week, right? And then next month you make two. And let's say you make 12 agent friends, and each agent friend sends you one deal in that year. You did 12 deals and you made $5,000 on each deal. That's 60 grand. That's doable, right?
Right.
And then in year two, you make 12 more agent friends. So now you have 24 agent friends and you did 24 deals and you made $120,000. And hopefully by then, you've also gotten leads into your pipeline to where you can start adding more marketing channels and bringing more deals in. Does that make sense? And
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know it gets exhausting. Um, but the key is going to be in the consistency and the follow-up. So taking off to analyze what's wrong is only going to set you back.
Right.
So, analyzing the LOIs, it's great. It's wonderful. I think you should, but it should never take away from the actual action taking, right? So again, it just might take you a little bit longer because you take the time off. And if you need to take the time off, I understand that's totally up to you. Guys, this is your business. You're going to build it how you want, right? It's how bad do you want it? You're not doing anything wrong. It's Azaria, right?
Right. It's
Okay.
actually Connie.
Connie. Oh, okay. You have C Azaria there. Okay,
Yeah,
Connie. I'm calling you by your last name.
it's okay. I'm used to it.
Connie, you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing it right. You just think you're doing it wrong because you're not seeing the results yet, but you will, as long as
Right.
you stay super consistent with it. And that's the hardest part. It's a mindset game.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on here and being brave and asking the questions and saying what you're doing. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so hopefully this helps, guys. Azaria, so Connie, Connie, what you're doing is exactly what I would be doing if I was first starting out. That's exactly what you should be doing, and you just got to stick with it. You will get a deal. You got this. You've got this. Does anybody else have any questions about that? I'd love to have you on for the last 5 minutes we've got here. If anybody else wants to come up, thanks for participating today. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit, right? So what's your path? Okay, find your path, which is we've got our market, we've got how many hours we're going to spend, we have our marketing channel, right? That's our path, right? Now let's get the action going and just stay going on that one thing, niching all the way down, getting really, 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 really good at it, right? Just doing it over and over and over again. And then coming into these Zooms and kind of talking through, what we're talking about today. Like, okay, so what am I doing wrong? How can I tweak this? We do need our community. We do need our networking. So I appreciate you guys being on here. If nobody else has any questions, then I'm probably going to go ahead and come off. And I just appreciate you guys showing up today. And I hope you have an amazing week. And we'll be on next week. I can't remember what I said I was going to do next week, but it'll be awesome. So thanks, guys. Have a great day. Hi, my name is April Giuliano. Right here is where you will learn all things real estate and how to juggle being a mom and entrepreneur. Don't forget to like and subscribe.